So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for practical growth strategies for your tax and or accounting practice. My name is Gary Dehart, and I am the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of today's webinar. Once I turn this over to Christine, I'll go dark, but I'll still be in the background managing or watching the Q&A if you have any. So our speaker today is Christine Gervais. Christine is a nationally recognized speaker who provides education to other CPAs on how to best serve clients, as well as instruction on a wide variety of topics for business owners on how to maximize success. Along with her extensive and impressive resume, Christine prides herself on the value she can bring to clients with her extensive tax knowledge and providing strategic, forward-thinking financial strategies to help clients grow. Christine has a master's degree in accounting, has been a CPA for over a decade, and is currently pursuing her PhD from Liberty University in accounting, which that just makes my head hurt. When she's not behind her desk, you can find her spending quality time with the daughter and her stepson, or attending to the family's excessively loved farm animals. We're going to have to talk about the farm animals next time. Or writing for Tax Practice News. I was looking through the bio. I'm like, we didn't even have that in there. So she writes for Tax Practice News, where she is the editor of that publication, which is owned by Insightful Accountant. A couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll turn this over to Christine. So we do have CPE is available for this session. If you have any questions, we ask you to put them into the chat or the Q&A panel. A link to the recording will be sent to you and can be found on our YouTube channel. I'll put that link in the chat once I go dark as well. Slides are already in the chat, so look for them there, but we will send you a link to a box folder that has the slides. And then the CPE certificate will be issued within about 24 hours if you are in session for 50 minutes and answer 3 of the 4 poll questions as required by NASPA. So with that, I will turn this back over to you, Christine, and look forward to seeing what you've learned in that PhD program.
Perfect. All right, hold on just one second here. Let's get my screen shared. Thank you so much, Gary. We're going to get you guys so that you can see this. Okay. Perfect. Now, let me just make sure that I can also see the chat. Feel free to interrupt. I'm going to have my chat here up on the other screen so that I can see your questions. Mark, I also love Scooby-Doo. That is a classic. Okay, so if you feel like you have any questions throughout, feel free to pop them in the chat. I will keep an eye on it and make sure that I'm addressing those for you. Thank you all for being here today. I genuinely love knowledge sharing and presenting, and growth strategy for your organization is one of my particularly favorite passions. So we will share everything that I have in my brain today. So as Gary said, my name is Christine Gervais. I have had my CPA license for well over a decade now. I currently serve as the CEO of the Department.Tax, which is an outsourced tax preparation company. Prior to that, I've held a number of different positions, obviously public accounting firms and working as a CPA in public accounting firms. I left and went to the dark side for several years working as the CFO for privately held organizations. Decided after that I didn't want to work for other people anymore and started my own practice in 2016. Grew that to the point of sale, grew another practice after that, and now, like I said, running the Department.Tax. And my experience for the last several years, I won't tell you guys how many, I already dated myself with the reference to Speedy Gonzalez, has mostly been focused on small business clients. So not only do I have the experience of growing my own business, but also a lot of my focus has been on small, closely held businesses in terms of helping them to grow and make strategic decisions as well. So that's where a lot of my depth of experience comes from. I'm very passionate about it. And what we'll talk about today and what I'm trying to focus on for all of you here is, like I said, as we titled the presentation, practical growth strategies. So things that you can actually implement in your organization, regardless of size, that are going to really help you to grow into the future. So really important point to start with here. Waiting for organic growth to happen will not make it happen. And this, I think, is a really common misconception, especially amongst those of us who are accountants, that it's a necessary service. Every business has to file a tax return. Every business has a need to do bookkeeping. And I've heard a lot of people in my career span refer to accounting as recession proof, right? That our clients always need us regardless of what the economy looks like. And that might be true, but there's also a lot of us. So we're going to talk more about how to stand out amongst the crowd, how to create value for your clients, how to make sure that you're attracting the clients that you actually want to work with. And we're really going to help you to craft an intentional growth plan, but not something that's just sort of, let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, because that's not always the best strategy for long-term growth for the organization that you're trying to create. So before I dive in too deep, let's just pause here really quick and we'll do your first polling question. So do you currently have growth strategies in place for your firm? Yes, but you can't wait to learn more, or not really, and you can't wait to learn some practical strategies. We'll give you just a minute to let everybody answer that polling question. We'll see what the results are. Okay, so actually more of you don't have one, but I'm super excited for those of you who do and are also hoping to learn something today. Awesome. Well, good. Then hopefully I can pour some helpful tools and tips into all of you. All right. Just one sec. There we go. I don't want to flip ahead too fast. My slide deck is a little slow. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, and I'll dive into each one of these as we kind of move forward, is where do you start with developing a growth strategy? How do you identify goals and metrics? What should you be paying attention to make sure that the strategy that you're employing is actually successful and working? How to have confidence in your value. We'll talk about value-based pricing, how to do that, what it means, what it looks like, and then practical strategies for sustainable growth. So that means things, action steps that you can actually take away today. That's not just some $100,000 marketing plan that isn't really practical for your organization to grow from. All right, there we go. So where are we going to start? So we are going to start really with setting intentions. Like I said, you don't want this strategy plan of action to be just, well, we want more clients. So we're just going to, tell everybody what we do and hope that we get more clients. We want to start by building a roadmap and actually being intentional to think about what are we actually trying to grow into? Where are we actually trying to grow into? So some things that you can start to ask yourself. I find that a lot of us, myself included, when we start looking at these very high level strategy focused things, what stops us a lot of the times is just this starting place, right? That we don't know where to start. So we just procrastinate or we push it off. We just keep doing our thing, doing our normal accounting work and production and hoping that the growth will just naturally occur. That goes back to our beginning slide where I said you really need to set your intentions. So these are some questions that you can start asking to actually pinpoint what sort of growth and in what direction do you actually desire to have this happen. And as we build this roadmap, that's going to give you something to focus on, which will be a lot easier for you to then design the next steps in terms of how do you then execute. So this should help take you out of that I don't know where to start space. So identifying that who, what, when, where, why. So do you just want to grow in revenue? When we say growth, it doesn't always necessarily mean just dollars. Obviously, we're all looking to build successful organizations, so revenue is probably going to play a key part here. But we'll talk about some other pieces that play into that in just a little bit, because not all dollars are really contributing to the bottom line. As accountants, we know that. We often see it with our clients, that if you're not getting the right type of clients for your business, if your jobs aren't profitable, you can add revenue all day long. Ultimately, it's not really taking you on that growth path that you want to be on, right? So thinking about, are you looking to just increase the number of clients that you have, the certain type of clients, a certain industry, a certain area of expertise? Are you looking to just grow in your staff because maybe you have a great revenue base, but you're really struggling to support it because you don't have a solid team right now? So starting to think and hone in on, for your organization specifically, or even just for you as an individual, where do you want to concentrate your efforts in this? Is there a particular industry you would like to be working in that your firm isn't touching right now? Maybe that's a growth strategy that you can focus on. Are you looking to just have more business tax return clients and not as many 1040 clients? That's a specific strategy, growth focused, that you can hone in on, that's going to give you a specific direction to go in. So just think about that for a couple of minutes, and that's really going to be where you start to focus your next steps in terms of building out this growth strategy specific to you and your organization. So once we've identified what we're trying to focus on, then we can start talking about setting goals and tracking, measuring, achieving those goals related to your specific growth strategy. So for example, if we say, okay, my practice is very heavily 1040 focused, I would really like to increase the number of business returns, corporate partnership, S Corp returns that we're preparing as compared to our 1040 base. I feel like I can support that there's a bigger profit margin on those, so they will contribute better to our bottom line. Maybe I have a staff member who's not being challenged by preparing 1040s right now, and they're really looking for this to grow for their personal development. That could be a reason that we're going to set that goal as well. So I'm going to focus on driving my business return percentage up. And so that's a very clear focus, but then you need to set a very clear goal. So if I just want more business tax returns as part of our mix for our clients, we need to then talk about defining what that means. What is more? How many more? How much money are these business clients making on an annual basis? Because maybe I think the profit margin on preparing a business return is better than a 1040, but that might only be true of certain size businesses. So you want to start to kind of filter in like what specifically is that goal. And we'll talk about SMART goals in a little bit, and measuring and tracking and how to make sure that you're really setting solid goals for yourself. But these are the next phase questions that you want to start thinking about in terms of, okay, I want to grow my revenue, but by how much? Within what period of time? So setting those clearly defined parameters will help you identify whether or not you're really being successful as we start to deploy this strategy. And like I said, we'll get into a little bit more detail with specific ideas for goal setting in just a few minutes. So do not just decide that you want growth and then take every opportunity available to you. You need a targeted approach. So we're going to help avoid setting you up for failure. And I say this with all the love in my heart, because after building several practices of my own, I can tell you that I've made a lot of these mistakes, and I've made them several times, even though I should know better. So we tend to do this a lot. We just want to jump at any opportunity that becomes available to us, especially when we're in growth mode. And we kind of tend to look at it as all growth is good growth, which is not necessarily the case. Like I said, as accountants, we know when things are not contributing to our bottom line or not contributing positively to our cash flow. So it could look like on paper something's a great idea, and then we do a job cost analysis on it, and it's not. So we don't want to just say yes to every opportunity. My example that I just gave, where I said, okay, I want to take on new business tax return clients, you want to even define what that means, because a startup isn't necessarily going to see the same value in your fee as a well-established business. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but understanding exactly what it is that you're focusing on is really, really important. And then try not to get distracted by opportunities that are not that. That's not to say that you can't analyze other opportunities while you're in your focus growth mode on the one strategy that we're putting together today. But hopefully this will just teach you over time that when you build that strategy, it's going to provide the type of focus that you need to start to discern better whether or not opportunities overall, even if they're not exactly what we're building a strategy around, help you to discern whether or not opportunities overall are truly a good fit for your practice. And you start to get into the habit of not taking everything that you're approached with, because you start to do a better job of really analyzing whether or not this is something that is going to contribute positively to your organization and your overall goals. Everything in life is a trade-off. So for every minute that you spend on a not ideal client, that's a minute that you could have potentially spent on a more ideal client, a better fit for your organization, had we had the tools and resources to better analyze these opportunities as they came in the door. And like I said, I've failed at this more times than I can count. I'm still learning because stuff still comes through that I want to say yes to, and then I regret later on sometimes. But just practicing getting better at this is really going to drive the quality of the work, the quality of the clients that you're seeing to come across your table. And that overall, regardless of whether or not they're the perfect fit to the focus strategy that you define today, that overall is going to contribute to your organization building and growing into the future. So as promised, talking about goal identification. Actually, I will pause here. Let's do the second polling question before we change the subject to more specific. So do you have a practice management solution that you trust? Yes, love it. Not really. Yes, but it could be better. This is great because we can get these responses and talk about how practice management can help with your goal tracking. Give everybody a minute to make sure you respond. Not really. That doesn't really surprise me. So some of you have it, love it. Some of you have one, but it could be better, and then not really. So if you're interested in sharing with me, I would love if you want to pop into the chat some of the names of the practice management solutions that you are using currently. If you feel so inclined, you can write love it or hate it at the end of that, just so that I can see some of the ones that are being used out there, and then I can tell you some of the ones that I have enjoyed using. So feel free to just pop those in the chat so I can see what the mix is. I'm very curious to hear the love versus hate options. Okay, let's see if I can get my slide to change while you guys are popping those in the chat for me. There we go. Okay. So most of you have probably heard of SMART goals. The acronym stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. So I'll talk about what each one of these mean. And as you can see, we're kind of moving you through a system here, right? We identified a sort of focus area of growth strategy for you. You set up some goals, and then we're going to help you refine those into what this SMART goals strategy is. So specific, I gave this example. If you just want to grow revenue, okay, great, that's your focus. Overall revenue, doesn't matter industry, doesn't matter work type, just we need our revenue to grow. We want it to be X% higher. We want it to be this dollar amount. It's 500,000 right now. We want to hit 1 million. Whatever your goal is, it needs to be specifically defined. So you don't want to write down goals like, I want my revenue to be higher. I want more clients in the construction industry. I want to do more business tax returns. That's not specific enough. How many, how much? Those quantifiable questions, you want to define the answers to those for your goal. So grow revenue by 20%. And then we'll talk, the time bound is at the end, but we'll talk about by when. So grow revenue by 20% is a specific goal. It's already measurable, but you can add that breakdown even more. So 20% more than your current, broken down in 30-day increments. So that's even more measurable for you, right? So rather than us just saying our time bound is 12 months, so I want to grow revenue by 20% in the next 12 months, we're going to break that down into what does that look like month over month? How much more revenue do we need to add on a monthly basis so that at the end of the 12-month time period, we know that we've hit our goal? So you can break those measurements down into as many increments as you need or make sense specific to your goal. If I'm using my I want to do more business tax returns scenario, I might say that, okay, right now, business tax preparation is 25% of the overall tax preparation in my organization. I want to see that go to 60%. And then to measure that further, I can break it down to how many more business returns do I actually need to add to my repertoire in order to get to that 60%. And then when we get into the value add and understanding your value, I'll talk about how to discern quality of clients to play into that as well. Attainable means, is it realistic? So you don't want to set unrealistic goals for yourself. You don't want to make them too easy either. You want something that you're going to have to strive for. This is definitely going to be work, intentional work, but you don't want it to be unrealistic. So the problem with setting completely unrealistic goals, and listen, I love a good stretch goal. I think it's fun and challenging to try and stretch yourself to a goal. But if you're consistently setting unrealistic goals, you're going to get frustrated, and your team that's working with you is going to get frustrated as well. We're all human. We like to have that sense of achievement. We enjoy that sense of the gold star on our forehead. So you just want to take a minute to think about, is this realistic? Can we do this goal in this time period? Does it make sense? Is it going to be challenging? Yes. Okay, great. But still realistic if we are focused. That's what we're looking for. And then relevant, does this apply to your firm? So I see this a lot too with accountants, again, because I think, and you guys, myself included, I've done this so many times, but I think that, again, we sort of think of ourselves as this recession-proof business and everybody needs us. And there's so many different services that we can offer. We want to be the jack of all trades. So sure, I can do a trust return, even though that's not what I specialize in. Or sure, I could calculate the value of your company, even though that's not what I specialize in. You really want to make sure that whatever goal you're setting, because again, we don't want to be taking all opportunities. We want to be taking the ones that make sense, which is why we're creating this focused strategy and structure for you. Is this relevant to your firm? If you are deciding to pursue a completely different industry, that might be great. But what's the reason that you're deciding to pursue a completely different industry? Does it actually make sense? Is it because you have a team member who it has experience in that industry and you're not currently utilizing their expertise? And so this is a new area that you could break into and it makes sense. So really the relevant piece is just, does this make sense for what we're trying to do within your organization right now? And then the time bound piece is setting a specific time period for yourself as to when you will achieve this goal by. That piece is really important. We tend to miss it. So we put the goal up on the board. We make sure it's measurable. We like it. We make sure it's attainable. And then we forget the piece of, hey, how long is it supposed to take us to achieve this goal? That piece is important. Without it, it makes it harder to break that measurable piece down. And it also makes it harder for you to really understand what are the action steps that I should be doing? How frequently should I be doing if we don't have that time-bound piece? Okay, so getting into knowing your value. We all struggle with this as accountants as well. We can use the numbers on the paper to evaluate a lot of things, but when it comes to really understanding our own value, and not just that, but taking it to the next step and educating our clients as to the value that we bring to the table, we struggle with this a little bit. I'm generalizing us into our introvert accountant status. So things to start thinking about is what sets you apart. This question always drove me nuts. I've had business coaches ask me this about like, well, why are you different? And it's like, well, I'm not. I'm providing bookkeeping services and providing tax services. Like, how am I supposed to make that different than anybody else that's doing the same thing? But we are all different. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into place here. The technology that we're using, our personality, and like there's just going to be a bunch of different factors, whether they're conscious or subconscious, that play a role in why some customers will gravitate to you and why others just won't be a good fit. So starting to think about like what makes your organization unique. Do you provide above average customer service? Like, is just your level of customer service and your communication just the most important thing to you? Do you train all of your team members that just customer service is the most important thing? So no matter what, we respond within this period of time. And no matter what, our decisions around technology or how we're running the practice are all going to be centered around what makes the most sense for our customers, what makes things easiest and most efficient for them. That's a really big deal, especially in accounting. So if that's something that your organization is focused on, that is a huge value add. And that's something that you want to make sure is integrated into this growth strategy. And when I say integrated, I mean specifically that you're looking to make sure that you're educating your clients and your prospective clients as to that uniqueness. Hey, our customer service is bar none when it comes to accounting land. So you're not going to find another firm who focuses on customer service or response, maybe it's response rates, customer response rates, the way that we do. We respond to everything within 24 hours without exception. That's how we train our team. That's something that somebody is going to know and understand is different than just, anybody else that they are going to necessarily look up on Google. So that's a good example. Maybe your technology allows you to be more efficient than your competitors. So maybe you're working with a particular tech stack, everything's integrated. It's allowing you to close their books faster than average. It's allowing you to flow their information from their books to their tax returns faster. So you're getting tax returns out the door faster. Maybe you've put some planning software into place that's helping to provide strategic value to your clients ahead of time. It could be any number of things. There's so much software out there now that does so many different things. Looking for technology that might help support your specific focused growth strategy is one way that you can take an action step to figure out, okay, if I'm going to focus on growing in this way, what are some of the tech tools that I'm going to potentially use to help support this goal? And what do your clients get from you that they can't get anywhere else? It might just be your personality. It turns out that I'm an extroverted accountant. And so I really love speaking and education. And that was one of the things that I actually heard from my clients when I was still running my own practice, was how much they appreciated that I always took the time to explain things to them. And so more than just giving them a financial statement or giving them a tax return, it was really important for me to teach my clients, how do I use this information to make educated business decisions so that my small business will have sustained long-term growth? So that was something that was just really passionate for me, that I was building that into my practice without even knowing it. And that was the experience that they were telling me that they were getting, that they had not received from previous places. So it's okay for you to think about like, what is personality fit wise good for you as well. One of the other great reasons to be intentional and have this focused growth strategy is because it's easier for us to put in the work towards growing and expanding, which it is a lot of work. It's easier to do and you will create more value just subconsciously when you're doing something that you truly enjoy. So I do not ever recommend that you focus your growth on something that you absolutely hate. Like if preparing a 1040 is the bane of your existence, don't make that the focus of your growth, because it's just not going to make you happy. And that's going to come across in your conversations with clients and prospective clients. So really making sure that you're focusing on something that is going to provide exciting work or an opportunity to develop and learn for you or your team. Those are the types of things that you want to make sure that you're focusing on. Okay. Before we get into value-based pricing, let's do another polling question. Would you be interested in attending a series of in-depth training webinars based on the topic of this webinar? Good question. If we did a whole series on topics like this, I would love it. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm happy that I am getting more yeses than maybes or nos, but I appreciate you guys being honest. Okay. So, pricing. This is definitely an area of struggle for all of us. I can tell you that with absolute certainty. Part of TDT's model, where we provide an outsourced tax preparation service, we are completely white label. So what that means is that we have a very high touch experience with our customers. We're not just doing data entry and then turning around a return. Everything is fully branded. Our team becomes part of your team. And so in that business model, I've had a lot of conversations with our clients around pricing, right? How do they price their tax return preparation appropriately? What should their retail price be to the end taxpayer user of this service? I get asked those questions almost 100% of the time when we're onboarding a new client. So I know that pricing is still something that all of us struggle with and trying to find the right fit. We tend to undercut on price when we're in a growth strategy focused mindset, because we're worried about not hitting our goals or not getting where we want to go. So the same as our tendency to just say yes to every opportunity, because no opportunity is a bad opportunity, right? We're just worried about bringing in as much as possible. We also tend to undercut on price. And so that really is going to play into part of this focused growth strategy, is that you're going to have to take the time to reevaluate your current jobs or your current pricing, or what's working and what's not working. There's a lot of firms that still bill on an hourly basis. If that's you, totally fine, nothing wrong with it. I personally found that billing retrospectively on an hourly basis did absolutely nothing for my growth and absolutely nothing for my cash flow. So I switched my firm first to a flat fee-based model for most of our projects, and then again into a value-based pricing model, which I'll kind of explain in a minute. But reevaluating your pricing, whether it be your hourly rate or your per project rate or however you price, is going to be really key to your long-term growth strategy. It does a couple of things for you. One, it identifies areas that are not necessarily contributing to your bottom line, meaning your profit margin might be lower on some things than it is on others. You might think that those lower profit margin items are a necessary evil, and you might be right, but there might be a cheaper way for you to do them so that you can drive the profit margin on those up a little bit. You want to know, obviously, what the profit margin is on whatever types of projects that you're going to be focusing on. So the worst thing that you can do is choose a strategy, a growth strategy to focus on without having any understanding of what it's going to actually contribute to the firm. What you don't want to be doing is picking something that's just going to contribute losses or break-even points and just create more work. So really understanding this and taking the time to reevaluate what you have versus what you might need to make changes to is really critical. Sorry, my slides are just a little bit slow changing here, and I don't want to change them too fast. I'll try one more time. We're going to be stuck on pricing. So while that's thinking, I will start talking about value-based pricing. So what value-based pricing is really the spread between the cost essentially of a service and the value add that you bring to the table. So that's the other reason why it's really important for you personally to understand what is that value add, what is that special thing that you bring to the table. So if I'm charging, let's just say $1,000 to prepare an 1120S and my customer service is garbage, I don't get back to my clients. It takes me a week or 2 weeks sometimes. They don't ever know the status of their return. They have to constantly ask me questions. That $1,000 might seem suddenly very inexpensive to them. If you come in with a $2,500 proposal to prepare the same return, but you're responding to them within 24 hours, they have no cares or questions in the world because they know that you have everything under control. They know they can rely on you. They know that if there's ever any sort of issue that you're going to respond to them right away. So the spread between that sort of cost basis model of, hey, it costs us X per hour to do this, and I have to pay my employee this much, and then there's this materials and things that go in. The difference between that or us billing hourly and us picking a fee that's purely based off of the value that we bring to the table that's different than every other firm, that's essentially what value-based pricing is. So we switched to a value-based pricing model. I do still do a little bit of hourly work, but it's very, very minimal, and it's typically on one-off special projects that are difficult to price up front. But almost all of our tax returns, almost all of our monthly recurring services, those things are all billed with a flat fee that's purely centered around what is the value that we're bringing to the table? What is something that we're providing that you can't get anywhere else that is going to be valuable enough to our clients that they're willing to pay X price for it? Feel free to pop any questions about that in the chat. I know it's kind of a subjective view of pricing. But some practical strategies for growth that you can employ specifically that you can kind of start to chunk off right away. So again, this doesn't need to be something that you necessarily have to wait for. These are ideas that you can start digging into as soon as you've defined where you're trying to grow, how you're trying to grow. So offering new services to current clients. Perfect. So let's just say in the past, maybe you haven't offered any sort of CFO level consulting. You've only done maybe bookkeeping and tax preparation. You've never offered to create strategic management dashboards for your clients or to do monthly financial statement, KPI review. And now you've decided your growth strategy is that you want to start building that out in your existing practice. So the very first place that you go is to your existing client base and make a big deal about offering this new service. You can offer them discounts to try it, see if they like it. But offering your new services to your current clients is a very easy first step to take to make sure that you're kind of getting the ball rolling on your growth strategy. Offering existing services to a new industry. So this is a completely different approach. I had sort of mentioned this as an example before, but maybe you are looking to break into the construction industry. Maybe you have a brand new team member who's got 15 years of construction experience, and you want to start bringing in some construction clients because that's not something that you've had in the past, and now you have the ability to service them. Again, make a really big deal about announcing that, finding who is the construction clients in your area that you can go and talk to, but that is going to just take services that you already know how to do and apply it to a new customer, a new untapped customer base. Investing in knowledge and technology. So I mentioned technology, I've mentioned development a couple of times. This is also a really practical way to start to add to your growth strategy. So let's say you identify a new industry that you want to break into and you don't necessarily have the knowledge on the team yet to be able to do that. Investing in the knowledge is obviously going to be critical in that particular strategy. But if you're consistently investing in your team's learning, if you're consistently investing in technology that's going to help to make you more efficient, those are going to contribute to that value add for your existing clients, as well as create future opportunities to break into a new industry or offer a new service to your existing clients, because you're going to continuously be increasing the knowledge base, that database that your team has to bring to the table. So if you're helping them to learn, grow, train, if you're helping them by the technology support that you provide to make them faster, more efficient, or just even allow them to work on the work, like I said, that they enjoy more. Maybe you can automate some of the things that are more monotonous for them to allow your team to really expand their minds and work on the work that is more enjoyable and satisfactory for them. That's also going to help you to retain your staff longer. Both of these things will help you to retain your staff longer, which is also a whole other topic of conversation when talking about accounting businesses. But investing in knowledge and technology is super, super critical for long-term growth, because it provides so much stability from your staffing perspective, and it's just going to continue to add value to your clients in terms of what you can offer, which means it's going to add value to prospective clients in terms of what you can offer. Asking for referrals, I think that we're mostly terrible at this. We can always do a better job, but asking for referrals directly, especially if a client gives you a compliment. If somebody tells you, hey, really appreciate how fast you turned this around. You did such a good job on this. We love working with you guys. Directly ask for that referral. And I hear this a lot. Oh, well, thank you so much. If you know anybody who's looking for an accountant, please introduce. That's not enough of an education. So especially because we're creating a focused growth strategy here today, what you want to do is make sure that you are educating your clients around your focused growth strategy. So if you are, I'm just going to use the same example that I've kind of been talking about. If you're specifically looking to do more business tax returns and a client says, thank you so much, you turned my return around so quickly, you guys always do a great job, educate them. Say, thank you so much. We are actually looking right now to specifically start working with some more small business owners and helping them with their business tax returns. We believe that we can provide that faster customer response time for them, and that's helpful to them because they will be able to make better strategic management decisions if they have faster response times from their accountant. So do you know, instead of if you know, do you know any small business owners who might be not happy with their current accountant, who maybe have started a business and they don't have an accountant, any number of those things. But you want to always educate people in terms of specifically what you're looking for in terms of a referral. If you don't do that education piece, what you're going to get, if you get any referrals at all, is that big umbrella, right? So that pile of opportunities that we now have to sift through when we don't necessarily know whether or not those are qualified and a good fit for our organization. So you want to educate your referral sources up front. This doesn't just apply to your clients, but any referral sources that you have. So lawyers, financial advisors, bankers, insurance agents, if you're relying on any of those people from a referral standpoint, you want to make sure that you're educating them around what your focused growth strategy is. Hey, dear John, insurance agent, thank you so much for referring work to us in the past. Wanted to just connect with you for a few minutes. We're specifically focusing on growing in the construction space, looking for more construction clients that are making between X and Y on an annual basis. These are the list of services that we're currently able to provide to them. This is why, the value add that we think we bring to the table that's different than another CPA firm. If you specifically have clients that fit this profile who would be interested in having a conversation with us, we would love to talk to them. That is a very direct ask. And that's going to cut down on unqualified leads coming your way because you've educated your referral source in terms of exactly what you're looking for. And then losing hourly work. So I always make people nervous when I say this. And it's just like, well, how does accounting land survive without hourly work? Like I said, I still do a little bit of it because sometimes you just have a project come across your desk that it's impossible to predict how long it's going to take you. It's a unique project, and it's not, something that you can compare apples to apples like a tax return might be for you to figure out what a good price point is. But I would say that our hourly work makes up about 5% of our overall revenue, meaning everything else has a flat fee associated with it. Hourly work just really drives your labor in term, even if you have a really solid hourly rate, it's taking up time where you could have a much higher profit margin on a different type of project. So it is one of these things that can be a necessary evil, but I really encourage you to take the time to look at where you can start dropping off hourly projects to the things that just they have to be done that way, and where you can start actually using a flat fee or a value-based pricing model to really drive your profit margins on your jobs without having to have that hourly. One of the beautiful things about value-based pricing and flat fee pricing as well is that because it's not really meant to change, it makes it a lot easier for you to bill it up front or to bill it in pieces as you're kind of going along. Whereas traditionally, a lot of us, when we bill hourly, we bill retroactive. So we do work first and then we bill them for the hours. That's not a great model either. I've gotten into the habit of, even on hourly projects, making sure that there's some sort of a retainer paid up front for those. But the moral of the story is that your hourly work is going to eat up a lot of time, and that's time that could have been spent on a project that had a higher profit margin for you. So make sure you really take the time to do that analysis, freeing up that time to focus on whatever focused growth strategy is that you develop today, taking that time that would have been spent on hourly projects to focus on projects within the firm that have a higher profit margin. Those are all decisions that are going to help you grow from what you already have available to you. All right, I will pause right there. Let's do one more polling question. What part of your practice needs the most work? Such a great question. I'm really excited to see what the consensus is on this one. Business development and marketing tied for first, followed by practice management and client relations. So yeah, so business development, marketing, and those kind of go hand in hand, right? So hopefully I've given you some tips today that help with both of those. Okay. Again, my slides are taking their sweet time, but I can tell you that my next slide is asking if there are any questions. So I will give you just a couple of minutes. Feel free if there's anything that I said and didn't give a full explanation on, or any questions that arose for you during the presentation that you'd love to get an answer to, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll just keep an eye on that for a quick couple minutes. I will also send to everyone my contact information. I know it's on the last slide, but in case you have any questions that you would like to ask me directly, you can feel free to shoot me an email.
Hey, Christine, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to throw one out there. You had mentioned that your company, I always get it wrong, but the department.tax, right?
You got it. Yeah.
That you do outsource tax work. So you're doing that for other practitioners. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So I do actually, you don't even know that this poll is in here, but I threw this poll in here while you were talking. And it was, since now we've shared with, what you do or what your company does, I'm just going to throw another poll up. If anybody would like to learn a little bit more about what the department, I named it wrong, but sorry, about what your company does.
Awesome. Perfect. That would be,
Sorry.
yeah, especially on a growth strategy seminar. There's nothing better than a shameless plug for what we do. Yes, I love to talk about what the department tax does. So if you're interested in more information, happy to have a conversation with you. I always get so excited when I'm talking to prospective clients and I start telling them about why our solution is so different than others that are out there. I think we still hear outsource, and a lot of us think that it's just kind of like a data entry person, sitting in an office somewhere, and that couldn't be further from what we do. Mark, yes, to answer your question. So if you slide up to the top of the chat, the slides are actually posted there. And I believe Gary also posted the link to the YouTube channel. So the slides should be in both places, I believe.
Yeah, so we'll have the link to the recording of the session on YouTube, and then we'll send a link to that along with the presentation to everyone as the follow-up for this event.
Okay, great. So if there's no more questions, I'll kind of leave you with the 2 action steps that I said you could start taking away right now and doing today. So define exactly what you want to grow, and then examine profitability on current jobs. So we talked about both of those a lot, but those are really the 2 things that you can do before the end of the day, or at least start doing. You probably can't examine profitability on all of your jobs before the end of the day today, but that's really where I want you to start. So really having a good definition of what direction you want your growth to go in, instead of just, we want to make more money or we want more clients. Define that before anything else. And then taking the time, like I said, to examine profitability on current jobs. There might be some that surprise you. You could find a whole area that maybe you haven't focused your growth strategy on in the past that's providing more profitability than you thought it was. Or flip side, you could find an area that's not as profitable as you thought that it was. And now maybe we make a different decision. We don't want to bring on any more of those clients. And how do we actually wind some of that down so that we can take our resources that are being utilized by those jobs right now and focus them somewhere that's going to provide more of a bottom line to the firm. So thank you so much. My contact information, again, I put it in the chat. It's also on this slide, or because my marketing manager is fabulous, you can scan this very fancy technology-based QR code, and it will pull the website up right on your mobile phone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat.
Great, Christine. Thank you so much. There is, we cannot hear kind of what you shared enough times, right? As business owners. I mean, it's, we all, well, our business, we're a small business, and, yep. It's me, a business partner, and a whole bunch of outsourced people who, keep our business moving forward. And it's difficult to block out that time, which is what's required to block out that time and really think about the business. I don't know, somebody wrote it right 10 or 15 years ago, working on it, not in it. And
yes.
It is so true. And like back in last year, I did the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses course, and it was phenomenal. And it forced you to take that time, at least once a week, but it was more than that, but force you to go through that process and narrow down, hey, what is our growth opportunity? Kind of what you pointed out. Do you change markets? Do you go after a whole new segment? And we ended up coming up with a new product that is more of an agency based, so certainly not as tangential, I think is the right word, to what we do, but it's a whole new product, and it's probably going to be 25-30% of our revenue this year. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All from those strategic conversations.
Yeah, it really was.
It's the book that you were talking about. It might have been the E-Myth. I don't know if you've ever read the E-Myth, but that was one of my favorites. And the E-Myth basically says that as business owners, we have to be 3 different people all the time. We have to be the entrepreneur, the manager, and then the production worker all at the same time. But you have to learn how to balance your time between those three, because if you spend all of your time on production, like you said, you're never project managing everything else. You're never building a long-term strategy for the business. That would be the entrepreneur's job. And then the flip side, for those of us who are more entrepreneurial and visionary focused, if all we do is sit around and strategize, we never get the work done. So you're absolutely right. You have to find that right balance between production and then focusing your time on working on the business and not in the business.
And you heard it here first. So great. Well, we will be doing some more of these webinars around growth. I mean, that's clearly one of Christine's passions, and it is, you know, kind of based on what we saw in some of those polling results. It is something that the profession is not, you know, it's not your core, right? You're phenomenal tax, phenomenal accounting, phenomenal advisors, but we're not necessarily geared to go and grow our businesses. Many people are, many people aren't. You work in your strengths. And so we're going to work with Christine to see if we can build out a series of these to help people grow the firms. So thank you so much for being here with us. Christine, thank you for taking the time to build this program out and sharing your knowledge. Hope everyone has a great weekend. If you're at Scaling New Heights next week, come and see us. We'd love to meet you. Talk to you soon. Thank you.